Artists, we are going to make a soft sculpture. A soft sculpture is exactly what it sounds like. It is a three-dimensional sculpture that is soft. You are going to have your choice of what your soft sculpture looks like, but we need to start with a template or a plan. The plan is going to be cut out, and this is going to be used to trace onto our base of our soft sculpture. You would need to have two of the exact same shapes come out for your top and bottom of your soft sculpture, and those are usually going to be the same color and the same size. So if I was going to make an emoji face, I would probably have a circle shape. If I wanted to make something like a pizza slice, I would probably have more of a soft triangular shape. So you're going to start with the basic shape. After you have your basic shape planned out, I want you to actually plan right on your template what you're going to be doing, what colors you want to use. So if I was doing this emoji face, I would know that I probably want this to be yellow. So I'm going to write down yellow. And I like to use the emoji face with the heart eyes and open smile mouth quite a bit. So I could do 2 hearts for eyes. And I could either do those red or pink. I was looking at my scraps and I noticed that I didn't have any red, so I'm going to do pink for them. And I definitely need to have that large open emoji mouth, and this is going to be black. So I'm going to erase this and move that over to here. If I was doing a different design, like a pizza, I would probably want to do the same thing, make a plan. So if I had maybe a crust line, maybe I could do a couple of pepperonis, and maybe I could have some little cheese lines, and I would want to plan out the colors. The crust is probably going to be a tan color. I would want the sauce to maybe be a red color, the pepperoni maybe a brown or a brown-red color, and then the cheese could probably be a yellow. So we just want it to be a plan. Once you have your plan, your next step is to carefully cut out your template because you're actually going to use that to trace onto your felt. Once your template is cut out, you're going to use this to trace on your piece of felt. And here's what I need you to make sure you do. We do not want to waste felt. So if I put this circle template right in the middle to cut it out, I would be wasting a ton of space. And we want to make sure that everybody gets to have the colors of felt that they want. So I want to start in the corner somewhere where I know I could take up the least amount of space. And you're going to want to outline this in Sharpie so that it can show up on your felt. I find that I don't like a black outline showing up on a light color, so instead of using a black Sharpie for this, I'm going to try an orange. I tested them just a little bit in the corner. I tried the yellow to see if I could see it enough, and I just could not see it. So I'm going to take my orange Sharpie, and I'm going to outline my stencil. Our stencil actually has to be traced 2 times. It has to be cut out 2 times because this is going to be the bottom and top of my soft sculpture, and this is going to be stuffed and sewn together eventually. So they need to be the exact same. So I'm going to do my best to trace them the same and cut them out as close as possible. Now that I have my 2 top and bottom pieces of my soft sculpture traced, I can cut them out. And you'll notice when you cut why I chose to use the orange instead. I didn't like the way that felt looked when there was a big black outline on it, so I decided to use a color that blended in a little bit better with the yellow. So I'm going to use my scissors and I'm going to cut this out, and what I don't want to do is I don't want to start all the way over here and cut into this because once again that would waste all of this felt for someone. So I am going to start by just kind of cutting around here so that if somebody else needs to use this felt, they can get the most out of it as possible. I do not want to waste. So notice that when I'm cutting, I'm trying to stay as close to my template as possible. That way I have extra yellow left over for anybody else who might need it. So I could put this back in the pile for someone else to use, and now I'm going to carefully cut out these 2 circles as close to the same as possible. Now that my 2 circles are cut out, I have a lot of scrap left over. tiny little things that I know that people probably wouldn't be able to use again, I'm going to just throw away. But if I have some pieces that I think others might be able to use for things, I'm going to set those aside and keep those in the scrap box. At this point, you have a decision to make. If you don't mind the way that this orange Sharpie still shows, you can leave it facing up. But if you remember, I said it kind of bothered me. If your project is exactly the same, like a circle, okay, when we sew, it's not going to be as visible. So it's okay that it is less visible. Now, this is exactly the same, one on top of the other, just the way I traced them. But I know that one side of my pillow is going to be the top, or one side of my soft sculpture is going to be the top and the other is the bottom. So if this really bothers me, I could make this side the top so that it's less noticeable. But what I did not do is I did not flip one and not the other, but because they would not be exactly the same anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over, and this now becomes the top of my soft sculpture. Your next step is to think about your features. Now you have two options. You can actually cut into this template if you don't need it anymore and you can trace these shapes, or you could freehand them on your felt. I'm going to aim for my best to freehand them on my felt. It's going to be pretty hard to draw anything on black, so that one I might just have to cut, but I'm going to go ahead and get my pink hearts ready and my black mouth shape ready. Once again, you'll notice that I'm trying to use colors that are still visible on the felt. And also notice that I didn't draw my hearts in the middle. I went from a corner so that way when I cut, I'm creating less waste and I'm leaving more scraps for other people to use. Now that I have cut out my features, I need to plan where they'll go. And because these don't need to be exactly the same, I can flip them so that I no longer see the Sharpie. So I'm going to plan out where the features go. And I like the way that that looks. So we are going to start by using a tacky glue. This tacky glue does a really nice job bonding the felt. And I'm going to glue these features onto the front of my soft sculpture. I'm eventually going to be sewing and stuffing it together, but the features are going to be glued on. And just remember, dot, dot, not a lot. When you are gluing with the tacky glue, you don't need much glue. Because tacky glue is so thick, sometimes it does take a while for it to work its way to the end, but once it does, like I said, just one little dot of glue should be plenty when you are trying to attach your pieces. That is plenty of glue, and you're just going to decide where it goes and attach it right to the front of your soft sculpture. I'm going to do that to the rest of my accessories. Because I wanted to make sure that the corners of the mouth really stuck down, I added a few more dots of glue. You might want to consider that when you're making your plan. So now that I have all of my features and accessories attached to the front of my sculpture, I will be ready for the next step, which will be sewing and stuffing this together.